You think you're funny, kid? Those words still sting when I think about them. I was 19, standing under blinding lights at an upscale comedy club, gripping a mic like it was a lifeline. The owner, a man in a crisp suit with a gold watch that could have paid our rent for a year, looked at me like I was dirt under his shoe. "This stage is for artists," he sneered, "not street noise." He snapped his fingers, and 2 security guards dragged me out like trash. Outside, snow fell on my worn sneakers as I watched rich folks line up for a show. I promised myself right there one day they'd pay to hear my street noise. But my story doesn't start there. It starts in a cramped apartment on the east side of Detroit, where the pipes moaned like ghosts, and our radiator danced better than Justin Timberlake. I was 7, sitting at the corner store counter, while my mom counted coins for a gallon of milk. "Mama," I said, "why did the penny break up with the nickel?" She sighed, exhausted from back-to-back shifts. "Why, baby? Because it didn't make sense anymore." Even Mr. Lee, the shop owner, chuckled and tossed me a free apple. Humor was the only currency I had, and I spent it freely. By high school, I'd turned every broken-down bus ride into a comedy set. I'd roast potholes, power outages, and the fact that I knew every library with working heat in the winter. My friends loved it. But the night of our school talent show, I bombed harder than I thought possible. I was halfway through a bit about eviction notices when a rich kid named Blake stood up and shouted, "Is this comedy or a sob story?" His girlfriend, dripping in jewelry, chimed in, "Stick to making jokes in the lunch line, loser." Laughter echoed sharp and cruel. The principal cut my mic and I walked off stage, cheeks burning. That night I sat on the fire escape with my mom. They laughed at me, Mama, not with me. She wrapped an arm around me. "Baby, comedy isn't about the stage you're given. It's about the truth you're brave enough to tell." So I kept telling it. Open mics, subway platforms, street corners. I performed anywhere people needed to forget their troubles for a minute. I studied legends on library computers, scribbled jokes on napkins, and memorized the rhythms of laughter. At 17, I got to the finals of a citywide competition performing jokes about neighborhoods where hope needed a security deposit. I didn't win the trophy. Went to a girl with a private coach and a famous dad. But something shifted. People clapped like they meant it. And that night, walking home trophyless, I whispered to the skyline, "One day you'll laugh with me." Fast forward. I'm washing dishes at the most exclusive comedy lounge in Chicago. Plates worth more than my shift pay customers who wouldn't make eye contact. But every night after closing, I'd sneak onto that empty stage and perform for rows of velvet seats, adjusting the spotlight I'd taught myself to operate. "Ladies and gentlemen," I'd whisper, "ever notice how when rich folks skip meals, it's called intermittent fasting? But when poor folks do it, it's just Tuesday." I thought I was alone. Until one night I wasn't. Richard Blackwell himself caught me mid-joke. His face turned purple. "You're fired," he barked. "This stage has hosted legends. You're nothing but street noise." He called security. I walked out that night with my apron still damp, humiliated, but not broken. From there, it was years of grind. Warehouse shifts at Dawn Coffee Shop, work by day, food delivery at night. Between jobs, I hit every open mic in the city. Dive bars, laundromats, Chinese restaurants where nobody spoke English, it didn't matter. I bombed so often that some hosts begged me not to come back. One night, a group of drunk professionals heckled me until I cracked and said, "Yeah, I'm poor. So poor, I know exactly which ATMs don't charge fees and which restaurants throw out food at 10 p.m. I've turned survival into an art form." The room went silent. Then one guy slow clapped and tossed me a $100 bill like a tip. Pride was a luxury I couldn't afford, so I pocketed it. Then came the gala. I'd picked up a catering shift at a Billionaires charity event where the champagne cost more than I made in a week. I was invisible in my waiter's uniform refilling glasses when a smug heir named Jonathan decided it'd be funny to humiliate me. "Tell us a joke, waiter," he sneered. "Make my mom laugh." His mother, Victoria, ran one of the biggest entertainment companies in the country. Dozens of eyes turned to me. I could have stayed quiet, but I was tired. "A billionaire, a millionaire, and a waiter walk into a gala," I said, setting down my tray. The billionaire says, "I'm donating $1 million to help the poor." The millionaire says, "I'll give $500,000. and the waiter says, "Cool, I'm the poor." The laughter that followed wasn't kind. Jonathan turned red. Security escorted me out, and I got a text on the train home. "You're no longer needed. Final check mailed." I laughed for real that time. They'd fired me for telling the truth. Months later, I stood on a tiny stage at Uprising Comedy, a converted auto shop in my old neighborhood. Elena, the manager, always filmed sets for social media, even if nobody watched. That night, the room was packed with people who understood my jokes because they lived them. "Rich folks love saying money can't buy happiness," I said. "You know who never says that? People who can't afford antidepressants." The place erupted. Phones went up, clips got shared, and by morning my set had gone viral. 10 million views in 2 days. Kevin Hart tweeted about me. Dave Chappelle said, "Remember this name." Suddenly the same clubs that rejected me were calling. Agents who'd scrolled through their phones while I performed wanted to sign me. Victoria Harrington sent an assistant. "Mrs. Harrington wants to meet." I agreed, but only if she came to Uprising. The next day, her black SUV convoy pulled up outside our graffiti-covered club. She sat at a beat-up table flanked by lawyers and slid me a $2 million contract. "We'll polish your voice, make you palatable," she said. "You'll be a star." I pushed it back. Palatable for who? Wealthy white audiences. I'm not here to make my truth easier to swallow. Jonathan, pale and silent beside her, avoided my gaze. I made my counteroffer, $3 million, full creative control, profit sharing, and free shows in neighborhoods like mine. Jonathan exploded. "Are you crazy? You're nobody," I smiled. "Then why are you here?" Victoria studied me for a long moment, then laughed. 50-50 split. "You've got yourself a deal." I added one more condition: Jonathan would publicly apologize for calling me nobody. That apology video became a meme overnight. 6 months later, I stood backstage at Madison Square Garden. 20,000 people filled the arena. My mom sat in the front row, finally off her feet after decades of cleaning offices. Jonathan and Richard Blackwell sat in the cheap seats. My old professor, the one who'd told me to quit comedy, had bought a ticket too. When I walked on stage, the applause rattled my bones. 6 months ago, I got fired for telling jokes at a gala I began. Tonight, I'm being paid more than I made in 5 years to do the same thing. That's not character development, that's America admitting it was wrong. Laughter rolled like thunder. I roasted every gatekeeper who'd tried to crush me, then spotlighted my mom. "This woman worked 3 jobs so I could chase this dream," I said as she wiped tears. The crowd gave her a standing ovation. I spoke about growing up with eviction notices, about being invisible, until the internet made me unavoidable. They called me nobody. I said, "But nobody's just somebody you haven't heard yet." A year later, I opened the Jefferson Comedy Academy in my old high school gym, offering free workshops to kids like me. Victoria showed up, no security entourage, just curiosity. She'd kept her word. Half of my profits funded community programs nationwide. Richard sold his club. Jonathan was exiled to a promotion overseas. The industry had started listening, not because it wanted to, but because we made it. The other night, I performed at the United Center. The VIP seats weren't filled with celebrities. They were filled with janitors, dishwashers, servers, people who'd been invisible their whole lives. I brought my mom on stage and she whispered into the mic, "Might as well get paid for laughing through tears." The crowd roared. After the show, I spotted a young security guard staring at me with hungry eyes, the way I once looked at anyone living my dream. I handed him a card. "Tuesday nights, Uprising Comedy. Tell Elena I sent you." His jaw dropped. For real. For real. And kid, when they tell you you're nobody, and they will remember that nobody's just somebody waiting for their moment. So tell me, do you think talent only belongs to those with money connections and perfect resumes? Or do you believe, like I do, that greatness can come from the cracks in the sidewalk? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Share this with someone who's been told they're not enough. Maybe their moment's next.